Hello Bond fans! So, if James Bond films are the best thing about the James Bond franchise, what's the second best thing about the James Bond franchise? No? No, try again. No, the video games, the James Bond video games! As a child growing up in the late 90s, early noughties, I was, of course, big on video games. Game Boy, N64, GameCube, they are the consoles of my childhood. Probably the games that I played the most, aside from Pokemon of course, were the James Bond games. Everyone always says that boys and men want to be James Bond, and well, these video games provided players with that opportunity. With 2, 3 or 4 years to wait between films, the games often eased the pain of waiting in between these gaps, especially when the video games had their own stories, characters, girls, gadgets, vehicle chases, and thrilling scenarios. Goldeneye N64 is the Bond game that everyone loves and adores, and I certainly loved playing it as a kid. I think it was one of the first video games I ever played, but I often found myself preferring the games with original stories, which is why today we're looking at the first James Bond game for the 6th generation game consoles. But before we jump into this review, I just want to make it perfectly clear that I'm going to be looking at these video games from the standpoint of a Bond fan. I'm not a huge gamer, I like video games, I have a very modest collection of them, but I don't consider myself to be an expert on them, so I'm going to be primarily looking at these games from the standpoint of story, character, and how they fit into the overall Bond franchise. So, with that in mind, get your controllers ready, people, because today we're going to be looking at Agent Under Fire. So, pop the disc in the console and we start with a trailer for the game we're about to play. Seems kind of pointless, really. I mean, you wouldn't open a screening of Skyfall with a trailer for that film, would you? Anyway, on to the first level where it becomes clear that Agent Under Fire is not going to be the most cinematic of Bond video games, as we have our M briefing over a series of stills. M explains that a CIA agent named Zoe Nightshade recently sent out a distress signal from a Hong Kong botanical research film called Identicon, where Zoe was undercover, as the CIA believe Identicon is actually a front for a weapons smuggling ring. As Bond is in the area, he is dispatched to rescue Zoe, as well as retrieve a suspicious case containing a number of vials. It would be nice to have actual cutscenes and not just have M talking over a load of low-res images, but we do get pre-level cutscenes, which are all fine and good, just, like I say, not cinematic. Like the first instance where we see Bond, you'd think they'd make a bit of a thing out of, like, you know, not seeing his face, it's all in shadows, and then maybe have a big reveal, but instead it's just like, oh yeah, this is Bond, now get on with it. So yeah, here we get a flash of our Bond for the game, who does not resemble any of the previous actors, but more of a mixture, I guess? I hear this James Bond model is kind of based on the guy who did the voice for this video game, but when I look at it, I can't help but see it as kind of like a mix of Sean Connery, Roger Moore, and Pierce Brosnan. One thing that I really like about this game is how there are multiple ways of doing things, and this element is present right from the very start of the game. You can enter the building through the door, or through the vent. The vent is my preferred way of entering the building, but the doorway gets you this little cutscene, which adds a nice bit of mystery as to who exactly the female voice belongs to.
We've been compromised. An intruder has entered from the helipad.
Show him our usual hospitality.
It's here that we get our first kill of the game, and instead of blood it looks like guards emit dust when shot. Just like in Goldeneye, getting that perfect headshot is so satisfying. Much of the first level is spent taking out relatively easy targets. I guess it's just to get you used to the controls and everything, and there are a couple of cool moments, and we even get our first line of the game from our James Bond.
Fireworks.
Bond picks up the courier case and finds Zoe tied to a submarine being interrogated by Nigel Block, head of Identicon and all-around bad guy. Her boobs jiggle. The level climaxes with a giant gunfight as Bond makes his way to the submarine to free Zoe.
I don't know how to thank you.
I'm sure we'll think of something.
Oh, same old James then. The second level introduces a new element of gameplay, that of a on-rails shooter as Bond and Zoe flee the goons of the corporation. At the end of the level, Bond and Zoe meet up with Q. Sorry, I mean R. As this game came out the year before Die Another Day was released, it seems slightly confused as to what exactly the name of the Gadget Master is, and while images are available showing John Cleese's likeness being used for R, the final version looks nothing like Cleese or Llewellyn or anyone else from the Bond franchise for that matter. I don't really mind, I guess it's a new Bond, so why not have a new R? Bond is introduced here to his gadget-laden BMW Z8 before this lady turns up, launches a rocket and steals the courier case. Bond and Zoe, Zoe?
She's dead, 007.
What? What? She's dead? What, but Bond didn't even get to bone her yet. Well, I guess as long as she's warm, there's still time. We then get a cool driving level with Bond in pursuit of the stolen case. Already this game has displayed an excellent sense of variety, and I'm totally with it. This is what a Bond game should be. Bit of shooting, bit of driving. Perfect combination. Another thing that I really love about the driving sections of this game is the real open world feel they have. There's not one set route that you must adhere to. You can go left or you can go right, you can take any route you please, and I like and appreciate the freedom. The car's gadgets are super cool too, and if you've unlocked it, you can play through the level in the Lotus Esprit from The Spy Who Loved Me. This is an excellent little bonus for Bond fans, and it also provides a different way to play the level, adds to the replay value. Bond uses his Q pulse to halt the van and retrieves the case of vials. It is then discovered that the vials contain blood samples of various world leaders, as well as a British diplomat serving in Romania named Reginald Griffin, who it appears is quite occupied with guarding one specific room within the embassy. Nothing suspicious there, then? Bond is sent to investigate the embassy as part of a stealth mission and is provided with a dart gun as the guards are not to be harmed or alerted. Quite what they'll think when they wake up from being tranquilized doesn't seem to bother M or R, so whatever. Bond makes a not-so-subtle entrance. James, the guards are right there. Before making his way through the embassy, taking out soldiers with really, really, really bad British accents.
It's in!
Ah yes, I can see there's a perfectly good ladder, but to hell with that, I'm Bond, I'm gonna grapple myself up there. Oh, hello. Anyway, on with the mission. Bond comes across a computer with size 1,000,000 font, a statue of a naked woman, and an actual naked woman. Well, semi-naked. I like how the game pans up her body like, yeah, check this babe out in all of her blocky, poorly rendered glory. Bond gets chucked out of the woman's room. Seriously, we're 4 levels in and he hasn't got a single whiff of Fanny yet, before heading to the next room.
Mrs. Bates.
M, I've found Griffin. He's been tortured to death. Looks like an interrogation gone bad.
No, sir. Your eyes don't deceive you. Unfortunately, I am the last thing they will ever see.
So, I guess the plot of this game is going to deal with cloning? Well, okay, that's fine by me. I mean, 30 years ago we had a similar thing with Charles
Jump to the left!
Grey in Diamonds Are Forever. After killing, or is that tranquilizing? I mean, I don't really understand. Anyway, after dispatching of the lookalike clone man, Bond gets the password to the computer and finds a message from Robert Bloch that mentions a Malprave Industries in Switzerland, which is of course where the next level, Cold Reception, takes place, with Bond undercover as a journalist named Mr. Somerset. We also meet a couple of new characters here, Ella and Bella, because if you hadn't guessed that cloning was a part of this story yet, well, then you're an idiot. But anyway, what are these going to be the Bond girls of the game? We've never had twin Bond girls before, but no. This is the first and last we see of twins Ella and Bella. I think it's a real shame that we don't see these characters again in the game, and Cold Reception has a very cold ending for me, so I would almost like to see them come back at the end of the level as like a kind of a boss fight, really.
M, I previously met Adrian Malbrave. She was in the embassy in Romania.
Then you'd better collect your information and get out, 007.
It's kind of stupid that it takes Bond to travel all the way to Switzerland to see a giant stained glass mural of Malbrave in order to realise that he'd previously met her at the embassy in Romania. Like, you would have thought MI6 would at least Googled her or the company before sending him over there. It's just like, oh yeah, Malbrave Industries, what, Switzerland? Oh yeah, fine, just go. But then it's not as if potential recognition really ever stopped Bond from going to Piz Gloria. I'm very fond of this level. There's plenty of snooping and shooting and even a cool little Easter egg when you stand by this piano and press the action button.
It's Bond!
Wait, how do they know I'm Bond? I'm Mr. Somerset, aren't I? Cold Reception is also the first level where we encounter these bad guy characters called Super Thugs. These Super Thugs make me really nervous. I like to try and kill them from as far a distance as possible. It just creeps me out when they come running at you like, ah! Much like in Majesty's Secret Service, Bond escapes thanks to a tram cable, and it's off to the next level. Well, back to the British Embassy in Romania, actually, in order to find and protect Dr. Natalia Damescu. Natalia? Did Natalia from Goldeneye get married or something? Is she gonna be the Bond girl of this game? Anyway, Bond has to go and find Natalia before the terrorists, led by Carla the Jackal, who earlier killed Zoe, does. Night of the Jackal is probably my favourite level of the game, and I just love this opening when the bus full of terrorists crashes into the embassy. I like how we're playing as Bond as we witness this event, and we're controlling him. Like, I don't know, it happens at the very start of the level, and I'm surprised they just didn't do it as a cutscene, but I think actually controlling Bond as it happens makes the start of the level really quite intense and frantic, so props to the game makers for doing that. After taking out a sniper and some goons, you grapple into an apartment, which is actually R's safe house. You go into the apartment and open the bathroom door to discover a woman who looks an awful lot like Zoe in the shower. Really, R, that's quite sadistic. And yes, I know what everyone does when they get to this bit. Ah, naked woman. In all her nippleless glory. Hey, is this music from The World Is Not Enough?
Ah, yes. The latest in holographic technology. I thought that would catch your eye, 007.
Oh, R, you're such a cock tease. After receiving a card from R that allows you to enter the back door of the embassy, you find yourself freeing hostages. Crying hostages, screaming hostages. Wow, this sure sucks the fun out of the game. Jeez, I wonder where the next levels are gonna be. Auschwitz and a sinking Titanic, if this is anything to go by. After freeing a few hostages and finding Dr. Natalia, who it appears isn't the same one from GoldenEye after all, Bond eventually gets to the top of the building where Carla the Jackal, or Jackie as I like to call her, is here, and this is kind of the first boss fight of the game. It's a cool little fight and it has a very satisfying finale, if a little gruesome.
Bond, did you encounter the Jackal? What happened?
She's fallen for me.
After Jackie, it's onto the roof to take care of a helicopter. I'm not sure if this has been done before in any other games, it probably has, but I really like how if you shoot the helicopter pilot with your sniper, the whole thing goes down, so you can effectively take out a helicopter with just one shot if your aim's good enough. Next up is another driving level. Hurrah! This time in Bond's Aston Martin DB5. Double hurrah! If Night of the Jackal is my favourite level of the game, then the streets of Bucharest runs a super close second. Bond theme blaring, fast action, blowing up bad guys. I'm a 10-year-old again whenever I play this level. By the way, if you can make it through this level without ending up with a car that looks like this, then I'd love to meet you in the hope that some of your godly talents may transfer to me, because I cannot get through this damn level without the car looking like scrap at the end. The second part of the level rips off Goldeneye, pays homage to a previous Bond film. We'll see a lot of tank action in Bond games to come, and it fascinates me that tanks have become almost a given in Bond games. I mean, sure, he commandeers one in the film Goldeneye, but it's not as if Bond in a tank has ever been an iconic image of the series, like Aston Martin has been. Anyway, it's another on-rails segment, which is all well and good, but the bit towards the end of the level where you put on the heat signature glasses or whatever they are always pisses me off because you're forced to play with them on, and in an ideal world they'd be optional. I would appreciate the challenge of playing through this section without the glasses. The level finishes with another kinda on the verge of almost becoming a semi-convention of Bond franchise media in the form of a sexy Q-branch assistant, in this case Zed, who appears in 2 shots and has no lines. But will Bond get to bed her? Well, no. So far this game has introduced us to a variety of sexy and intriguing potential Bond girls, and yet none of them actually become one. Bond hasn't been this celibate since it took him nearly an hour to bed his first girl in The Man with the Golden Gun.